Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is Craig Smith here with a very special edition of Let's Draw on Something in so many words. As the title of the subject states, David Stern passes away at 77. Uh, I'm going to make a quick edit here on this description. Um, I found this out while discussing in the sports chat group on Facebook. I was discussing the Alabama game and was not I was wasn't too impressed with Mac Jones because he in the offense he threw for barely threw for 300 some yards against a Michigan defense that was the drizzling the shits. But anyway, David Stern had passed away um, after suffering a brain hemorrhage last month. Okay, Stern was the NBA commissioner from 1984 through 2014, presiding over a period of immense growth for professional basketball at a time in which its popularity was significantly lower than it is today. At the beginning of his tenure, the NBA Finals was still being aired on tape delay. By the time he stepped down, the league had become a financial powerhouse and one of the most widely viewed sports in the world. Uh, Adam Silver, who's his statement. For 22 years, I had the pleasure of sitting courtside to watch David in action. He was a mentor and one of my dearest friends. We spent countless hours in the office, at arenas, and on planes, wherever the game would take us. Like every NBA legend, David had extraordinary talents, but with him, it was always about the fundamentals: preparation, attention to detail, and hard work. David took over the NBA in 1984 and the league at a crossroads. But over the course of 30 years as commissioner, he ushered in the modern global NBA, which I will get into in a little while with some of his accomplishments and his faults, his questionable faults. He launched groundbreaking media and marketing partnerships, digital assets, and social responsibility programs that have brought the game to billions of people around the world. Because of David, the NBA is a truly global brand, making him not only one of the greatest sports commissioners of all time, but also one of the most influential business leaders of his generation. Every member of the NBA family is the beneficiary of David's vision, generosity, and inspiration. Our deepest condolences go out to David's wife, Diane, their two sons, Andrew and Eric, and their extended family. And we share our grief with everyone whose life was touched by him. Okay. Quick bio here on Stern. Says Stern is arguably one of the most important figures in the history of professional basketball. He joined the league as its general counsel in 1978 and helped institute the league's salary cap prior to being named commissioner in 1984. In that role, he spearheaded a number of initiatives that helped transform the league into what it is today. Among his most important accomplishments was turning the NBA into a television powerhouse. Even the NBA Finals struggled to garner an audience when he took over the league, and it was even shown on tape delay. But Stern brokered several enormous broadcasting deals, first with NBC, then with TNT and the league that we all hate, ESPN, that helped popularize the sport nationwide. Viewing numbers peaked in the 90s at the height of Michael Jordan's popularity, which Stern used to help make the NBA a global sport. He was also one of the driving forces behind the 1992 Dream Team, which is the first Olympic roster to feature NBA players. Jordan, Magic, and Larry Bird led Team USA to the gold medal in Barcelona. But the true impact of their presence came in introducing foreign fans to the game. The, prolif- the proliferation of international players in the NBA is a key element of Stern's legacy. Stern's decision to play exhibition games on foreign soil still lasts to this day and has even been expanded to include regular season games. Growth was a defining feature of Stern's tenure, and not just in terms of the NBA itself. He was also the founder of the WNBA in the 90s and one of its great champions despite early financial struggles. That is true. Now we're going. There's also some good to that he has done as well. Um, Shout out to Jimmy J. Smooth, who had hit me up to what he has done. Um, and Corey Wolf, by the way, who pointed this out. Stern helped brought about black team ownership, which is one. Um, He also helped increase the NBA players' salary, which is a different story. And he had also expanded the NBA globally, as I said, but by creating the McDonald's Championship, as well as allowing NBA players to compete in the Olympics. Now, them are some of the good things. He's done a lot of numerous things, and those three stand out mainly about the team with the black ownership, which is still being preached and trying to be etched in stone to everyone to this day, whether you're in the NBA or if you own your own company or whatever. But he also done some more questionable things, in which it is. Despite his considerable positive impact on the game, Stern's tenure was not without his controversies. He led the league through four lockouts, and his stewardship of the then New Orleans Hornets as a league-owned team following the final lockout in 2011 led to one of the most hotly debated decisions any commissioner has ever made. When Hornets general manager Dale Demps, who and David Stern went for the record, has publicly said that he is was one of the worst GMs ever, and he is. And Dale Demps, you don't need a job right now. Just chill out. Attempted to trade star point guard Chris Paul to the Lakers. Stern stepped in and vetoed the deal, citing basketball reasons, which was bullshit because this was the reason. He felt that you can't have two superstars playing on the same team. But call me crazy here, but didn't he allow some guy by the name of the Queen or the King to join a team that already had two superstars like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh? As is motivated in doing so. The decision was hailed by small market fans following a flood of superstars leaving their original teams in free agency for bigger cities. Others, however, questioned whether or not it was the commissioner's place to make such a decision, even as the acting owner of a team. Paul's ultimately traded to LA either way, but to the Clippers, not the Lakers. He had no right to do that. He should have just went on here and let it happen. He also instituted a controversial dress code in 2005 because of Allen Iverson. The decision was made in hopes that a cleaner image, particularly following the brawl between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons that spilled into the stands a year earlier, would help make the players more marketable. Nope. While there was pushback at the time, the decision ultimately led players making fashion a key element of their brand. Now, back then, WWE tried to institute this same shit with their superstars. But certain superstars had exceptions to the rules, like Undertaker and John Cena. So you have to excuse my mom in the background. But anyway, yeah, like I said, WWE tried to institute that shit. They wanted everybody to dress business casual when attending events except certain people. Um, I can say, man, like my old job FedEx, an old manager from way back when had the nerve to implement a professional dress code with not just with the rampage, but with everybody. She wanted the male rampages to be clean shaven, wanted to have their shirt tucked in. Uh, she didn't want like if it was hot, she didn't want tug drivers to or anybody to roll up their sleeves or whatnot, making muscle shirts or whatever. Then she had wanted like the tug drivers to be clean shaven. And I abolished that in my own way because because I showed up with a beard or not, didn't care. But yeah, David Stern, he called himself trying to hurt the NBA players by implementing some shit like that. But at the same time, it became a help. And my boy Jimmy, shout out to Jimmy J. Smooth and Corey Wolf. They both said that was because of one thing, Allen Iverson. And he said soon, such decisions and ultimately emblematic of Stern's legacy, he was willing to make unpopular decisions for the sake of the league. And while not all of them was anticipated, the NBA is far better off for having been led by Stern. True. And also, I forgot to mention the one good thing he did implement, which was if you were a junior and you decided to declare yourself for the NBA draft, but if you didn't sign with an agent around about that time, you can go back to school. But the team that draft you had to retain your rights. So just say if, in which I think the NFL should institute that rule as well. So just say like if Giannis was playing for North Carolina, he decided he want to go pro in his junior year, but he didn't sign with an agent, and the Bucks draft him. Okay, the Bucks can draft him in this year's draft, but he can go back to school for the night for the 2020-2021 season, and then the Bucks are having that following season, which made a lot of sense. Another thing that did make sense was the playoff format that he did. The 2003 playoffs was kind of questionable. It is me talking, and the good memory that I do have, matter of fact, the good research that I do. The Denver Nuggets played the LA Clippers in the first round. Okay, Denver Nuggets had a better record than the Clippers, but the Clippers beat them in the regular season series. So he figured that whoever, if the Clippers who had I think they were fit, they won 50 games, and I think the Denver team had won like 54 games. He was like, regardless of the record, if that team had a better win record in the regular season series, that team was gonna get the home court advantage, which wasn't fair to Denver, even though Denver did win. That wasn't fair to the league, so he abolished that. Okay, but it also said that David Stern will be sorely missed by the entire basketball world and remembered as perhaps the single most important person in making the NBA what it is today. That I can agree. But you know, but in David Stern's case, at times the good can overshadow the bad, vice versa. I mean, he did do some bad things. The dress code, when he terminated Joe Smith of the Minnesota Timberwolves' contract, which has yet to be revealed, which was never revealed as to why. And I think Joe has quietly retired, and he has not he didn't play with a team since then. But David did make a lot of changes. He had, good ideas. Sometimes your good ideas lead to bad ideas, and sometimes sometimes when you get drunk with power, you make some dumbass decisions. Now that Lakers deal, yeah, he didn't have no business stepping in on that, and it wasn't basketball reasons. He felt it was like Chris Paul's a superstar, Kobe Bryant was a superstar. You don't need super. You don't. The deal was you didn't need two superstars playing on the same team. But didn't LeBron go do that shit later or the year before that? David Stern, for the 30 years he was a commissioner, he represented. Yeah, it was falling through hard times, but when he took over, he under his eye, the NBA during that time. I'm going to exclude like some part of the 2000s. Matter of fact, the NBA from his watchful eye from '84 to, excuse me, I'll have to say 2000 represented was the smash mouth slash attitude era of the NBA, the hard hitting and all this other little stuff and this and that, yada yada, and all that. But now and then, when that smash mouth era was coming to a close, we was getting ready to go into the corporate era from 2001 to 2000 and to the time he was there. From 2001 to 2014, the NBA was going through the corporate phase in his final years. And now it is becoming, and now the NBA has really become soft, and it has been programmed to where we got to be regressed. Matter of fact, this the soft league. This the soft millennial era in today's league. Big, it's fine and good. Yeah, big men shooting 3-pointers and stuff like that. What's going on, Jimmy? He said tape delay ended in 1981 for the finals. It officially ended in 1986. Okay. But I think like in the corporate era, put a black eye on one era. The 2000 and back in 2010 or 11, it started the LeBron era, in which we're doing right now, the super team era. So, like the article said, David has done some good things and he done some bad things. But it has become only thing what Adam Silver did. He just followed the blueprint. He just followed the game plan, but put his own wrinkles to a whole lot of stuff. Um, but when you think about it, Stern really is, and matter of fact, and he was and did represent the smash mouth attitude era of the NBA, you know, and then the corporate era. I take that back. The corporate era actually started. Yeah, the corporate era actually started in 2005 because I think we was about to start transitioning. That's true on that too, McWright. The NBA always has super teams. We were slowly phasing out of the Smash Mouth era because the Malice in the Palace did in some crazy way represented that last brand of basketball. So again, just don't want to let me see if he wanna come in. The players now dictate the super teams. Okay. I'm listening on the chat here. The fuck? Give me a second, y'all. I'm doing something right now. Jimmy, check the Sport Talk group. But the corporate era, that really, like I said, the corporate era was really more as a shot toward Allen Iverson. But but it backfired on them. Players are still dressing the way they wanted to dress. I mean, being funny about the dress code, you might as well tell them have how to have a restaurant code. What they can eat and what they can't eat. You know. But I'm gonna see if my boy Jimmy J want to chime in on a few things. We'll make this another discussion. But hope everyone will have a prosperous new year and whatnot. And let me give Jimmy J a minute to get his stuff and everything else hooked up together. Cause he's busy watching Shits again, known as Michigan, the Shits again Wolverines. Get their ass kicked by Alabama. They got their ass kicked by Alabama 38-16. So while I wait on Jimmy J Smooth, gonna do a little quick intermission. I'm gonna come right back. Okay, I'm back. Something I don't know what's going on with Jimmy. What's going on, Marcus? Well, he's finally joined up. Hold on a second. Get him again on chime on in. Salute, Marcus Johnson.
Hold on.
What's going on?
What it do, man?
Not much, man. We're just talking about David Stern here, man, and I'm sure you want to chime in on some things. I see you agree to a lot of I agree to a lot of things that I said.
Yeah, I know you're reading from an article, but yeah, to be exact, the tape delay ended. The NBA Finals tape delay ended in 1981, and the tape delay era officially ended in 1986. But what was happening was before 1981, 90% of the NBA games were on tape delay. You know, they started the tape delays 10:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard, 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern Time. What happened was in 1980, when Magic Johnson came into the league, because basically Magic Johnson and Larry Bird basically got people back in basketball. Because to rewind, because I want the people to be educated on basketball. Back in the day, in the 70s, you had the NBA and you had the ABA. What was happening with the NBA was the NBA had all the superstars, but a lot of your superstars started going to the ABA. And that's where Julius Erving, Moses Malone, and those guys, because Moses Malone was the first kid to jump straight out of high school up in Virginia. So what happened was Wilt Chamberlain retired. It all started when Wilt Chamberlain retired. The NBA's ratings went down when Wilt Chamberlain retired. So basically, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a one-man wrecking crew in the NBA. He was basically the superstar that held down the NBA. At that point, he was the only, quote-unquote, the only known superstar, you know, because we had guys like Walt Frazier, but they wouldn't get their squig. Unless you was a diehard NBA fan, you didn't consider him a superstar at that time. He was a superstar under NBA standards, but not fan standards. You know what I'm saying? But you had Dr. J in the ABA and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the NBA. So what ended up happening was Larry O'Brien, the late Larry O'Brien, he ended up becoming commissioner of the NBA. The ABA and the NBA merged, which was David Stern was one of the key guys of helping the NBA ABA start, because David Stern was the vice president under Larry O'Brien, and he also had by trade, David Stern was a lawyer by trade. Yeah. He also instituted in 1976 the Oscar Robertson Act. Now, even though free agency was not officially real free agency didn't come through until like the late 80s, early 90s. He built the foundation of free agency, restricted free agency. At the time, it was restricted free agency. So to a certain degree, the owner still had control. Before then, you had the slave contracts, basically, as Bill Russell put it. But so at that time, when the NBA and ABA merged, they lost a lot of ratings because number one, in the 70s, the ratings were split between the ABA and the NBA. So to fast forward back into 1981, really 1980, that's when the ratings started going up. And you had a whole bunch of people complaining about the NBA back then, talking about, well, we need to see this live because this dude over here, Magic Johnson, can ball. But the basketball ratings started when Magic Johnson had defeated Indiana State that year, because Michigan State was not supposed to go all the way to the NCAA championship game. So it was Larry Bird, the white the white redhead kid that was good at Indiana State, plus the black people, the black people's favorite players. So at that time, they increased the ratings on NBC. NBC from the 60s down to 1981, they had college basketball. They hosted the college basketball NCAA championship, and they hosted college basketball until 1991. So they increased the ratings on the college level. So the people that was fans of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird shift over to the NBA. And there was complaints in 1980 when Magic Johnson won the NBA Finals, because you started having a growing number of Laker fans. The ratings increased again. You know what I'm saying? So when the Celtics went to the NBA Finals, the television ratings went up again because you had white America's, or I should say middle America's favorite basketball player, because there was a lot of racial factor to go along. And that's not to take away from Larry Bird. Larry Bird was a badass player. That white boy can shoot the shit out of that motherfucker. He was a badass player, but we have to also understand it was a lot of racial factors coming in with the Bird versus Magic Dave. So that's what brought the ratings back to the NBA. So the NBA ratings was brought back by that. So what ended up happening was Larry O'Brien, along with David Stern, came up with the idea, okay, we can't tape delay the NBA Finals. So the first non-tape delay NBA Finals since probably the 1970s, since Wilt Chamberlain retired, they finally stopped showing the NBA Finals on tape delay. So fast forward with David Stern. Now, I will say this: David Stern did help a lot with Larry O'Brien's tenure. He did help institute some things like the free agency and the player salary and stuff like that. But David Stern, when he came in as commissioner in 1981, after the 84 NBA Finals, one of the great things he did, honor Larry O'Brien, because Larry O'Brien built the foundation for David Stern. In order to give Larry O'Brien, to give David Stern props, you have to give Larry O'Brien props, because he built that foundation. And the only thing David Stern had to do was expand the NBA globally. Now, he did increase the player's salary. He did do things like help black ownership, because he made sure Michael Jordan was number one protected. Now, this is not a piss on Michael Jordan's legacy. He had to protect Michael Jordan because, first of all, the Detroit Pistons was getting away with what is now called flagrant fouls and flagrant ones and twos. If you instituted the same rules today with what Detroit was doing back then, everybody on that whole basketball team would have got ejected. Let's just keep it 1,010. So he had to protect Michael Jordan. It was a necessary thing he had to do, and he made sure, he said, right before he left as a commissioner, he said he gonna do everything in his power to make sure Michael Jordan becomes an NBA owner. And he did just that on his promise right there. Now, there were some controversies with David Stern. David Stern went in there with controversy, because let's go fast forward to the 1985 draft. Everybody knew.
I forgot I mentioned that. And there is and in fact, I'm gonna go on the link. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get on my YouTube while I'm on the laptop, and I'm gonna find that link, because if you look clearly, that 85 draft was rigged, and that 2011 draft was rigged.
I agree,
because you had to think, even though the Hornets didn't even have the worst record in the league, they still got the number one pick.
Exactly.
And when I made mention about when Dale Demps, which was pretty much the right thing. I think Dale at the time, before he started being Dale dumbass Demps, he was going to honor Chris Paul's trade. You know, he was going to do that, and you know, and for what Dale was asking, wasn't much. But then when Stern did what he did, I'm talking about basketball reasons. Bullshit. He didn't want. He didn't like the fact that he talking about can't have two superstars on the same team. But wait a minute. Didn't some dude now that every media outlet is dick riding now went to a team that had two superstars already?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what the fuck?
I agree.
And I think you did agree with me about what David Stern represented during his tenure. And again, I still say from 1984 when he took over to I forgot whatever year I said was
2014.
Yeah, from 84 from 84 to 2004, that was the smash mouth attitude era of the NBA. Okay, where men were men. The malice of the palace represented that last little bit, even though it was what it was, and I watched that on live TV. It was a fucking malice. Then the smash mouth attitude era just slowly fades to, like I said, into the corporate era.
Yeah, I agree.
And now it slowly fades to the corporate era from 2005. And if anybody was listening to what I said, please correct me if I'm wrong. From 2005, from the beginning from after, it phased out. As a matter of fact, corporate era took over after Malice in the Palace because it phased it on out. So from 2000,
Shout out to our boy Marcus Johnson as well. If we didn't already get to him, I just want to always salute that brother for always coming in. But please continue, sir.
Yeah, so we had the corporate era from 2005 to whatever year I said, and now we dealing with the LeBron era, which I really think the cater to LeBron era started in 2010.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, the LeBron era started from 2010, and now we dealing with this shit for 10 years.
Exactly, and that's the reason why Chris Paul. I'm gonna tell you, because Town Biz, shout out to my brother Town Biz, man. We're gonna have to get this man on a show or jump on his show one of these days. Town Biz pointed this out because he said one of the reasons why Chris Paul was stopped from going to Kobe, because Kobe would have won another championship with Chris Paul. Even though Kobe was out of his prime, Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant on the same team.
Man, and then you had Paul Gasol. And Andrew Bynum. And Phil Jackson. Coaching.
The NBA, let's keep it 1,010. You can say a lot of great things about David Stern, but it's a lot of fuck shit that we can't name off the top of our head. And it's some that we can name. We're just naming the short and beauty of it. Man, the Lakers would have won the NBA Finals had they would have got a championship right before Kobe left, because Kobe Bryant was still putting up 20, 22 points a game easily. If Paul had played, Kobe would have been putting up 30, 35 like James Harden did last year and year before last. Because that's one thing about Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a pass first point guard. So it would not have taken away from Kobe Bryant. And even some of the Houston Rockets fans, I've had diehard Houston Rockets fans say the same thing. Had the NBA not tampered with that trade, he would have gotten the championship. And a lot of people had mixed feelings about Chris Paul leaving the Houston Rockets, but that was a Fertitta thing. Fertitta saw lack of progress, but that's different. But he would have definitely gotten the championship. He definitely would have led them to a championship because Chris Paul is a pass first basketball player. And for David Stern to do that fuck shit, and Town Ben said it best. He wanted LeBron to win a championship because LeBron was the face of the NBA, was going into the face of the NBA. So that's what it was right there. And I totally agree with Town Biz when he says that.
Me too.
Please continue.
Okay. No. Meet some flame out. Excuse me, y'all. These motherfuckers good. Okay. They're good as hell.
And then you remember that year in 2007 that he came up with that microfiber basketball, and everybody in the NBA clowned his ass about that. And he had to change.
Oh my
Change the
God!
rule. The next year, he had to, the players, man, because they were gonna go on strike about that. Because the basketball, it was almost like you grabbing a fucking volleyball to some certain degree. So it was a real fuck shit.
God!
It was a fuck shit basketball, and he instituted that fuck rule. And everybody from Shaquille O'Neal to even Mark Cuban got on his ass. You know, and he was finding Mark Cuban the whole year. You know. So man,
Cuban, like, he would be finding Mark Cuban every year. Mark Cuban, I'm gonna tell you something. Mark Cuban got some hood in him, dog. He like, I don't give a fuck about you firing me. I got more money than you. Shit. Cuban tell it like it is. You know, on the side note about him, he did come out publicly and express his feelings about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I think he did say that he was one of the contributors to Obama's presidential campaign.
Right.
And he also feels that, and I think he foreshadowed it. Yeah. You know, on some things about the NBA. He said the NBA is not getting ready. It's not going to be the same anymore.
No.
I mean, because I'll tell you this here. Had Chris Paul went to the Lakers that year, Dallas team, but I'll be honest with you, Dallas would have beat them. That's just how fucking deep Dallas was. I mean, they wouldn't have swept the Lakers like they did in their championship year. They whooped the shit out the Lakers record fashion. I ain't never seen that happen to a Phil Jackson team. But had Chris Paul been on that team, that probably would have won 6 games.
I don't know, man. Chris Paul, that he would have been hard to stop. I don't know, man. But
But man, yeah, that microfiber ball. Now, for a while, you remember the playground ball? They had the little suede to it.
Yeah,
they had that in the league.
Yep.
A fucking microfiber ball. What the fuck? What you was trying to do? Collect dust?
Exactly. They immediately changed
microfiber is used for and for a lot of people, microfiber is used for dust. Okay, you got the microfiber cloths in there. I have one as I speak right now. It helps, you know. You'd be surprised with microfiber clean. Like my computer screen, I don't have to spray nothing and just wipe it a little bit, cleans it up, and then I wipe it all the time. You know, with the get all the dust bunnies and particles and follicles and everything else. But what the fuck David Stern is going to do that year? Had the players clean the dust off the court with that ball?
Exactly. And then also, what was also controversial was to jump back on the Joe Smith situation. They said they revealed that the Minnesota Timberwolves had tampered with Joe Smith when he was playing for the 76ers. And you know what Minnesota wanted to do is they was going to give this man an $85 million contract as they were, because they were going to sign him for 1 year and then renew his contract for $85 million. But
hold it thought, and I looked it up, man.
Go ahead.
Joe Smith was having a beast of a year that year.
Yeah.
He was playing like the Maryland Joe Smith.
Yeah.
I ain't talking about the 94-95 Joe Smith. I'm talking about the fucking 93-94 Joe Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But but continue.
Yeah, but what they had an arbitrator, and they said that the Minnesota Timberwolves was tampering with him 2 years prior, and they basically fined the Minnesota Timberwolves $3.5 million and took away the next 3 first-round draft picks, which would ultimately turn, devastating for them ultimately, because after Kevin Garnett went to the playoffs with them in I want to say 2004, when they basically had the Lakers on the ropes in the conference finals, That pretty much fucked their whole world up. Now he would end up going back to Minnesota, but he wouldn't be the same as he was going back, and he would definitely not be able to get the same contract that that he was going to get, because he was going to get an $85 million contract out of this. But it was some, to be honest with you, and the criticism of that is all the teams tamper with players of some sort, and that's true. That's very true. You always have some type of player tampering to some degree. You always get owners. You're like, hey, I hear your contract is up. If you want to re-sign with me, if you want to re-sign with the team, we'll match whatever offer you're gonna get to the team. That happens all the time. So I'm kind of with the people on that. That was some fuck shit in itself, because you got owners, GMs talk to players outside of other teams. I don't give a damn what people say. You know what I'm saying? So that was some real fuck shit right there. It was very questionable right there. That was a very questionable move that David Stern had did on that.
Right.
And
now, go ahead.
And the situation with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm about to say Seahawks.
Seattle. So I forgot that. Yeah.
Seattle.
And I forgot to mention that, because he didn't, he just let that shit happen. He just let it happen. He just let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts? Yeah, you was about to say something about that.
Yeah, the guy, what's the man? Howard Schultz, who was the owner, the former owner of the Seattle Supersonics. He was going to spend more money to keep them in Seattle, because let's not get twisted. Even some of your announcers to this day always salute to the Seattle fan base, because Seattle had probably some of the best fans in the NBA. They supported the Seattle Supersonics. And what happened was Hurricane Harvey had hit New Orleans. So the Hornets had to play their home games in Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma, as I call them when they fucking up Choklahoma, they sold out every fucking game that the Hornets had brought to them, because they played all their home games in Oklahoma City. So what happened was a guy by the name of Clay Bennett, who is he the owner? Okay, yeah, he's the current owner. He's the head of the ownership group of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he also is a powerful guy at the University of Oklahoma. So Clay Bennett ended up, basically doing a under the table deal with David Stern. That's basically the if you're reading it on Wikipedia, it's basically the sweet and short of it in layman's term. He did an under the table deal, and a lot of people not only in the city of Seattle was questioning this. You had people all over the NBA in NBA cities was like, "What the fuck?" But what happened was Clay Bennett did an under the table deal with David Stern, and David Stern, approved the trade, approved the relocation of the Seattle Supersonics, in spite of Howard Schultz bringing more money to those guys. They were going to build a whole nother stadium, everything. They were going to build another stadium. They was going to put more money. And it was some controversy. He was in court for a while about that. And I think the NBA ended up settling with Howard Schultz about that, because Howard Schultz was going to spend more money to keep them in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? Because the fans wanted them there. The fans of Seattle wanted them there. And David Stern basically made a under the table deal in layman's terms. So it is what it is when it comes to that. That was some real fuck shit with how they did the Seattle fans. And even announcers is kind of like that was some fuck shit in their own roundabout way.
Yep. Yeah, that was, man. I hate to go to Wikipedia to see I'm going Wikipedia right fast. And also since I had to re-edit the title, which is Let's Draw on Something Extra, we're gonna do y'all solid on this new year because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna be in the lineup, projected lineup. Matter of fact, because while Wikipedia's loading up, one of the episodes that I do have planned, Jimmy J and I will do a watch along. You ready for this, Jimmy?
Okay.
We gonna do a watch along of one of the greatest Fiesta Bowl games ever played. Boise State versus Oklahoma. And we're gonna do a whole entire watch along from the top to the bottom because I was so glad that Bob Stoops had got his comeuppance in the end when Boise State. Yeah, this was pre Chris Peterson. And this is more like our dedication to Chris Peterson. When Chris Peterson and Brian Harrison outsmarted and outplayed and told Bob Stoops, fuck you too, in that game. Now the notable events during his tenure, okay, we did say location of 6 franchises: the Clippers, the Kings, the Grizzlies, the Nets, the Hornets, and the Sonics. 7 new NBA teams: the Hornets, the Timberwolves, the Heat, the Magic, the Grizzlies, the Raptors, and the Bobcats. The ratification of the NBA dress code, which, if Jimmy wants to talk about that again, that was a bunch of bullshit.
I agree.
The NBA Finals
1,000%.
trophy renamed and I told the story about what happened at FedEx on Night Side when an old manager of mine on Night tried to implement this same shit, which is stupid. Okay, the NBA Finals trophy renamed the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Said the NBA Finals MVP trophy renamed the Bill Russell NBA Finals Most Valuable Player Award. And sadly, he had 4 NBA lockouts: 95, 96, 98, 99, 98 to 99, and 2011. Now, I do remember the 98, 99 one, but the 95, 96 one, everybody played full seasons.
Well, here's the thing with those 95 and 96 lockouts. They were going to happen. The only reason why they didn't happen is because they was coming to an agreement way before then. And that's really when the player's salary started to balloon at that particular time, because that's when you started seeing Michael Jordan make $30 million a year. You seen Patrick Ewing started making $25 million a year. That's when you started seeing those salaries balloon up. And then Kevin Garnett came into the league in 95, 96. And that's really what was the foundation of the 1999 lockout. You know what I'm saying? Because Kevin Garnett was going in there making $100 million, and you saw motherfuckers was like, oh, they started getting jealous of that. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is when it comes to those particular lockouts. But those were the beginning of the increase of player salaries. Now, they was increasing in the early 90s, but people wasn't making 20 million. They wasn't making 20, 25, 30 million at that time. They were making more like 10. At best, you may see a player making 15, 17, so that's what was the beginning of the player salary increase. And more so, and one could argue that the player's salary increase was attributed to the head of the Players Association more than David Stern, because the ownership in the commissioner, they was having a real big power struggle with that. So you could also attribute that to the Players Association more than David Stern. But nevertheless, it was on his watch, so it's definitely going to be credit to him.
Mm-hmm. But this is why we got Jimmy J on here, because he's more in depth with the controversies, as well as I. Now, we did forget the controversies. We did bring up the microfiber ball. Big shout out to Mark Cuban again. That's my guy. I can't say what I want to say because he got some brother in him. He has some brother in him. but we also got a few other things. Okay, said during the 1985 NBA draft lottery. Now let me fill everybody in. The NBA used a system where 7 envelopes representing the 7 teams with the worst records were mixed in a tumbler, and then drawn by Stern one at a time to determine which of these clubs would get the first pick, almost up to the 7th. With these envelopes, when these envelopes were added to the tumbler, 2 envelopes were put in forcibly and banged against the edge, while all the rest were set in gently. When drawing the envelope for the first pick, Stern went for the one with the bent corner, which upon opening the envelope, it was revealed that the New York Knicks logo was inside. This fueled speculation of a draft fix, with the theory being that the NBA wanted to send the best player in the draft to New York to increase ratings in a large television market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the 1997 NBA playoffs, the NBA suspended 5 players following a brawl between the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat, which affected the outcome of that series. Some of the suspensions were required by a league rule implemented under Stern that provides an automatic 1 game suspension to any player who leaves his team's bench during a fight. In the 2007 playoffs from the Spurs Suns game, several players who left the bench and were not involved in the altercation were also suspended, prompting complaints from officials on both teams. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Joe Smith thing you talked about. In 2000, it was revealed that the Minnesota Timberwolves had tampered with Joe Smith 2 years earlier by promising him a more lucrative contract in future years in exchange for signing him below market value so they could sign more players in the short term. Well, the reality of that, people, is 20 years later, they still slick doing that shit.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
the
Hell yeah.
NBA voided the last year of Smith's contract, fined the franchise $3.5 million, and took away the Timberwolves' next 3 first-round NBA draft picks. Although many believe that tampering is a common practice,
It is.
Yep, Stern abided by arbitrator Kenneth Dam's ruling that the Timberwolves had signed a secret agreement and denied that the league was making an example of the Timberwolves, which is bullshit. Oh, whoa, he had a whole bunch. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
wait a minute. He even got into it with the wrong person of all person because we're gonna make that last. Additionally, okay. To Additionally, leading up to and lasting throughout the 2011 season, 2010-2011 season, Stern and Deputy Commissioner Adam Silver made a number of statements regarding the drafting of a new collective bargaining agreement for the 2011 and 12 season. During the All-Star game in LA, an open meeting between players and owners was held over the agreement, with Stern quoted as saying that he, and in brackets, knew where the bodies are buried in the NBA because he had buried them himself. This raised eyebrows in the room, including that of all-star point guard and eventual MVP, Derrick Rose, who shared his disbelief with fellow reports. I just stopped and thought, whoa, I couldn't believe he said that. This statement, coupled with others, served as a prelude to the labor dispute and later set the stage for a player lockout on July 1st, 2011 that would last for 5 months.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now more on this trade that we talked about, that which was good move by Dale Demps, but later was blocked by one uh David Stern. Hold on, my shit. Wait a minute. Okay. On December 8th, 2000, matter of fact, this is after the Mavericks won the title. Stern vetoed a 3-team trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Lakers, Lamar Odom to the league-owned Hornets, and Paul Gasol to the Rockets for what a spokesman would only say were quote-unquote basketball reasons. Early reactions from around the league, fan base, and media were all largely negative, with players taking to Twitter to express their concerns, and several noted sports journalists criticizing the decision. The deal was maligned, especially because of the conflict of interest posed by the league's ownership of one of its teams. In an interview with ESPN, then Lakers coach Phil Jackson noted that league ownership of the Hornets could be particularly troublesome in the event that Chris Paul requested a trade. In the aftermath of the veto, Jackson stated, if you create a situation like that, the problem might arise, and it certainly did. Sports columnist Bill Simmons decried the move as the league intentionally jeopardizing its own credibility, which they did, and called the league's ownership of the Hornets the biggest conflict of interest in sports history, which it was. The decision came immediately after a deal to ratify a new CBA for the next decade was finally reached. Ostensibly, one of the aims of the agreement was to bring parity to the 30 teams in the NBA, while still facilitating player movement. The feeling amongst many was that the commissioner was pressured by the league owners who shared collective ownership of the Hornets and did not want to facilitate a trade in which the Lakers would receive a star player of Paul's caliber. Code for super teams. And Jimmy has gone on my show and on his show to explain that super team, that the era of the super teams is nothing new. It's been going on since the 70s and 80s. And
really?
And matter of fact, further past that.
Probably 60s, because there were super teams in the 60s with the Celtics and the Lakers. Because most of your NBA championships have been won by super teams. You know, the Celtics was the original super team. Then you had a super team with the Philadelphia 76ers. Then you had a super team with the Celtics again, and then with Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West and Goodrich and Baylor. They were the ultimate super team, even though they only won one NBA championship out of it. So even though even though Baylor retired, they gave him a championship. They honored him with a championship that same year. But nevertheless, they super teams goes all the way back to the 60s. So the NBA thrive historically off super teams. The Lakers of the 80s were a super team. The Celtics of the 1980s, Dick Vitale made one of the dumbest trades that would build the foundation of pretty much getting the Golden State Warriors to trade their first round pick to the Celtics that would, hamper the Pistons for years to come. You know what I'm saying? Because Vitale was a general manager / head coach, and he got rid of a player that was in his prime. I can't think of the guy off the top of my head, but he was a key member of that Boston Celtics team. He was averaging 12 points a game, but when he was with the Pistons, he was averaging more like 25 with the Pistons. So he delayed. That was the reason why they had to draft Isaiah Thomas and Kelly Tripucka and those guys. Because he made that bonehead ass move. People don't talk about that move, Dick Vitale move, but that was the foundation of that Boston super team with Larry Bird, McHale, and Robert Parrish move. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been super teams in the NBA. That's pretty much what made the NBA thrive was super teams. But the difference between super teams now is instead of the owners and the general managers making the decisions to create a super team, the players can make a decision on the super teams. And I think I'm talking about critics of this, they need to stop bumping their gums about this. Because when the owners did the shit, you didn't have no problem with it. When it was your Lakers or your favorite 76er team or your favorite Boston Celtic team, you didn't have a problem with it. So why y'all bitching about it now? Players just got more control now. Y'all talking about what players want to cheat. Get the fuck out of here, motherfuckers. Y'all only get mad about it when it don't benefit you. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why I didn't criticize LeBron for that. You know what I'm saying? Because LeBron was doing what was best for LeBron. But nobody complains about these owners cut these players when these owners do all types of fuck shit. You only complain about it when these players make the best decision for them. And another controversy that David Stern should have been involved in was the Craig Hodges situation. When Craig Hodges, refused to do at the national anthem. Let's talk about that Mahmoud Rauf situation. Mm-hmm. And so he was, even though he did a lot of good, let's talk about those situations as well. Because Craig Hodges was probably the best three-point shooter the NBA had. You know what I'm saying? Well, at least the Bulls had, I should say.
Yep. And he could defend he defended his ass off too.
Yeah. Yeah, way better defender than BJ Armstrong. You know what I'm saying? He was a fucking black Steve Kerr, in my personal opinion, BJ Armstrong. I'm just gonna keep it 1,010. But nevertheless, after he didn't stand for the national anthem, not only Jordan didn't defend him, but David Stern didn't try to make sure this kid get a job. So that's
I was real disappointed about that one.
Yeah, and also Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. You know what I'm saying? He just, he didn't stand for the national anthem. And next thing you know, he was out of a job. And the thing about it was this guy was coming off a career high of 54 points. You know what I'm saying? Versus the Utah Jazz that year. Go back on YouTube on that. He was at the peak of his career, and all of a sudden this kid can't get a job in the NBA.
But he talked about it in an interview in the past when he came back with the big three. And he and I'm gonna tell you something. Pull up Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf big three. This man, he'll be 52 years old this year. I think the big three came in existence in what, 2016 to 17 or something like that. And I remember my ex-wife and I, we were watching it, and she was talking about, look at this little old light-skinned dude, he killing them. I said, yeah, that's Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. I said, that's Chris Jackson, the former Chris Jackson. I said, but she like, well, why you say former? I said, he go by a Muslim name. We call him Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. She said, oh, okay. So he out there just killing. I said, he still got it. He still got it. I said, look at that. I said, that's what the NBA missed out on. And he said that there were a bunch of players, and he said he didn't want to say no names. He couldn't say no names at the time, support him for what he did. Because, see, David Stern didn't understand. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, that was his religious belief.
Yeah.
And I like this here. I have no problems with people. Like, if I don't want to stand for, if I don't want to stand for the national anthem because, hey, if I'm Muslim, that's my prerogative. If I'm going to kneel during the anthem, even though I'm a veteran, that's my prerogative.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was surprised about that. But Jimmy, you forgot about two other controversies, because we're gonna end the show on the last with a final note. In 2012, David Stern was involved in a controversy with sports talk show host Jim Rome. During an interview, Rome asked Stern about the conspiracy theories that the NBA draft lottery was fixed in favor of the New Orleans Hornets, now Pelicans. And he asked, was the fix in for the lottery? Stern replied with two answers. Number one, no, and a statement, shame on you for asking. He then proceeded to ask Rome, have you stopped beating your wife yet? And accused Rome of, quote, making a career out of cheap thrills. This led to a heated exchange between Rome and Stern, with Stern ending when Stern said he had to go call someone important like Stephen A. Smith. Damn. Damn.
But Jim Rome have gotten to it with everybody.
He got into it with Jim Everett. So that's a long story to call that man Chris.
Chris Everett and Jim Everett flipped that goddamn table over. I bet you won't. I bet you won't say, yeah, I bet you I will. Chris, he flipped that table over. Jim Rome is the dude that goes there, man. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
He still go there a little bit.
Yeah,
he on CBS Sports Network now. I mean, that's a good fit for him. He still go there a little bit.
Yeah.
But not as much as he was like, nah, wait a minute. I'm not gonna say that's a controversy. That's just David Stern being savage. When the man asked, have you stopped beating your wife yet? Bro, I'm like, ooh. And then gonna say, I had to call someone. Sorry, that's my phone, y'all. I gotta go call someone important like Stephen A. Smith. Damn.
Damn.
And last but not least, on November 29, 2012. Now, why would David Stern pick with that boy Pop? Greg Popovich sat out Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Danny Green for a nationally televised game against the Miami Heat. Oh, and for the record, the B team almost beat that. The B team did beat that Miami team.
Yeah.
Popovich has frequently set out his starters on road trips over the years in order to ensure that they have enough rest for the playoffs. And when you think about it, Greg Popovich is the originator of load management.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing. You could understand him doing with Tim Duncan. You could understand him doing it with Ginobili because at that time those guys had season-ending injuries.
Mm-hmm.
At that particular time, Danny Green, not so much. I think load management should be reserved for people that has a history of season-ending injuries.
Yeah.
I won't. I'm not completely opposed to load management. I'm opposed to doing it when a person does not have the history of season-ending injuries. If they have a history, like Kawhi Leonard, I can't really complain about that to a certain degree. Because now, if it's a nationally televised game, that they may need to modify the rules, but there needs to be some load management, especially when there's somebody like if it's a bullshit game. Let's say the Clippers play the Memphis Grizzlies and it's not on national television.
Right.
I don't see why not.
See that.
I don't see why not. Now, if they playing against the Lakers, that's different because now you're messing with their viewership right there.
Mm-hmm.
If he's healthy and he can play, he can play. Because guess what? Baseball teams load manage their players.
Yep.
The NFL load manages a lot more than what people realizes it. You know what I'm saying? So,
all right, well, hold on.
You can't really
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
But you can't completely you can't completely outlaw it. And I don't think, and that's the reason why I don't think the NBA the only time the NBA does something about load management is when it's a nationally televised game with people spending their money. So that's understandable. That's totally understandable. With them finding the Clippers a couple of times, but like I say, if a guy has a history of season-ending injuries, that's a different thing right there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Stern was outraged when he learned of this and said on the night of the game that the Spurs' actions were quote unquote unacceptable and that substantial sanctions in brackets would be forthcoming. So on November 30th, Stern fined the Spurs $250,000 for what he called a disservice to the league and the fans. According to Stern, Popovich had not informed the Heat, the league, or the media in a suitable time frame that the four players were not making the trip to Miami. Stern's decision was criticized by commentators such as Adrian Wojnarowski of Yahoo Sports, who said Stern doesn't care about the realities of the league, just the appearances. And that was true, because you just said it. To him, the appearance on Thursday night was that Popovich has tried to embarrass him on national television, and that's why the commissioner tossed that tantrum. Wojnarowski has argued that Stern has generally shown a pattern of bias against the Spurs while giving considerable leeway to the New York Knicks for their violation of league policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on that note, y'all, with the David Stern bit. But but on that note, we ain't bashing the guy. If same question applies to you, Jimmy. If there was one, despite all of the, most of the bad outweighing most of, the good and the bad being pretty even as to what he done, and as I said that, he when he got that power, he started getting drunk with it, and he couldn't. It's like an alcoholic not wanting to give. It's like a recovering alcoholic trying. It's like, like I'm an alcoholic. I go to these AAU meetings, then I recover, and then I'm back to drinking again. That's how David Stern was as a commissioner.
Exactly.
So, Jimmy, as you know, and now I'm asking you in the span of things as your co-host on Jimmy J Smooth Network. Tell our viewers what would be one word that you would describe David Stern's run as commissioner.
In spite of all the negative, I would say visionary would be one word to describe. Visionary.
You know? Indeed. And he had uncanny tunnel vision.
Yeah, he had a great vision for the NBA. So I can't really, other than the little fuck shit that we mentioned earlier, I can't really piss on him outside of that because he did have a great vision for the NBA, and he is the reason why they're making more money on a global level because the NBA Finals is because of David Stern is now seen all over the world. And as I mentioned on this show before, other stations outside of the United States, from China to Europe to the UK to Africa, even news stations out in Africa, they spend top dollar to watch the NBA Finals. You know, that's the reason why the NBA has been trying to distance themselves from the general manager of the Rockets, Daryl Morey, which I think he shouldn't have said shit about that. He should have let them people hold their own nuts, and I stand on that 1,000%. Your problem is not my problem, and I can name a whole. But nevertheless, that's the reason why the NBA is stepping in and trying to resolve that little incident that happened with the Chinese people, is because the Chinese people, or CCTV, they spend top dollar to watch the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals is seen in hundreds of different languages and shit like that. So his vision is the reason why that has happened. You know what I'm saying? It's just like with ESPN. If you order ESPN Plus app, you can watch the Premier Soccer League because the Premier Soccer League is shown all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the NBA. The NBA has been the foundation of that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is what it is with David Stern. And like I say, Larry O'Brien set the foundation for David Stern.
Right.
You know, it's just David Stern took his vision and took the vision and rolled the dice with it, man. So in spite of all that, he had a great vision other than the controversies.
Right. I have to say one word: pioneer.
Yeah.
Because Larry O'Brien, to borrow a quote from a guy that you have now, that you like and respect now, that took over for Dwayne Casey. Larry O'Brien had gave David Stern the keys to Ferrari. All David had to do was just start learning how to drive it. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what he did with Adam Silver. He gave him the keys to a newer Ferrari. I still like to know. I still, which will, it'll never come to light. I would always miss. He with like you said, the NBA on NBC and stuff like that. I would always miss that. I remember when the NBA was on CBS. The NBA Finals was on CBS. Wait a minute. But on Sundays,
yeah.
I truly miss this thing. Because when you were a little kid and when you heard that team theme blasting on the TV, I'll be back outside in a minute to play with y'all. We're gonna watch the Bulls.
Man, nigga.
Hold on.
Nigga. Hey, man.
Wait.
Hey. Everybody, I don't give a fuck what you were doing. If you were playing basketball, shooting hoops, playing football, whatever you doing, everybody stopped what the fuck they were doing.
Man,
when the NBA was on NBC, we stopped everything we were doing. It was like, man, let's go watch the game. And wherever you was at, you either ran home or you ran up in your friend's house. Especially during the Jordan era. Nobody wanted to be the Michael Jordan shot. I don't give a fuck what you were doing, man. Nobody wanted to be the person. I remember I had people that was at FedEx because at the time I was still in high school, but from what people told me, because they had the Sylvan 7 back in the day. And you probably remember this as well, but people stopped, people got back then, if you got your packages out on a certain time, you got an extra pay raise at that particular time. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this. I think you got an extra $700,000, something to that magnitude. But people, like when they knew the NBA was coming on, and I'm talking to a person that worked there, because I wasn't old enough to work until 2003. But they was like, man, them people used to step on the gas just to go see NBA on NBC. They used to step on.
I remember when I'm telling you, when I was in Memphis, man, shoot, everybody like I don't even think if NBA on NBC was on yet in Chicago when I was there. I remember the finals on. I remember when I was last up there, they were on CBS. But when they officially moved to NBC, man, everybody went up in the house.
Yeah,
especially Memphis, everybody went up in the house. No matter, even when I went to this corner store was up here in Lauderdale, a Korean guy, he would have the game on. He was like, "Oh, what time is it? About 11 o'clock. Oh shit, game on." He had a game on. That man had a game on. He'll sit there watch the game, stuff like that. That man be ringing it up. He said, if Jordan not playing, I don't watch. So, all right, damn.
Yeah, that's the way it was. That's the way it was. He kept it 1,010. That's the way it was. Everybody stopped what they doing just to go see Michael Jordan play basketball, man. I mean, that's just the way it was, man. Everybody stopped. Even at the little corner store off of Shelby Drive in Tullahoma, the county lines. Habib, the guy named Habib. You know what I'm saying? That's his real name.
You talking about that little corner store that's like almost going to the intersection right across the street from the Mapco?
Right across the street from Mapco when Habib was running it, because it's ran by some different guys now.
Mm-hmm.
But when Habib was running that Habib and his homeboys was running that shit, man, they used to have the game on. You know what I'm saying? They used to have the game on like it wasn't nothing, man. They used to watch the NBA too, man. And yeah, man. I mean, everybody stopped what they were doing, man. We used to play basketball, man. I used to play basketball at my homeboy Aaron house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My boy Aaron and Tony's house. And Miss Barbara, I think that was his mom's name. But nevertheless, man, if Michael Jordan was playing, oh shit, man, we stopped everything what we were doing. We used to play basketball in Mr. Parker's house, and when the gym opened off of Tullahoma and Bestway, man, we used to have the game on in that bitch. So man, we stopped everything. Real talk. When Jordan was playing, dude, we stopped every damn thing. When I say everything, we stopped everything. Everything.
That's where it was, man. That's how it was.
Yeah, no.
When that thing got to playing, soon I'll be playing it, man. I'll be playing my Nintendo game. And when I hear that theme, I put that game on pause and go in and see who playing. If Michael Jordan ain't playing, I'll go right back in my room, start playing Nintendo again.
That's just how it was. That's just how it was, man. And like I say, I mean, Bird and Magic made people do that, but it went to an extreme, when it came to Jordan. Everybody watched Jordan. No matter who Jordan was playing, we wanted to see Michael Jordan, because everybody was a Michael Jordan fan to a certain degree. Even if even if you was living in another city, you was a New York Knicks fan that got dropped off, you respected Michael Jordan. You was like, damn, please don't make that shot, Michael Jordan. You was hoping he didn't make that shot. Like, oh shit. Oh shit, Michael gonna beat us again. You was a New York Knicks fan, and you swear to New York Knicks, this is the New York Knicks year, and you like, just like 1993, because the New York Knicks was number one in the Eastern Conference, and the Bulls was like number 2 or number 3.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2 in the conference. And I think the Knicks won the first 2 games, and then
the Bulls whooped their ass.
4 straight games.
Because everybody wanted Phoenix and New York to play. Wasn't no way in the fucking hell. Because they said if that was gonna happen, Phoenix would have won. Mm-hmm. But what no damn way in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan was gonna get denied that 3-peat.
No. Michael Jordan, he had the will to win. The will to win. His will to win was greater than anybody's will to win. He if it was on his time, he gonna shine. So that was just, and that's the reason why you cannot compare LeBron to Michael Jordan, because his will to help his team win is on a whole nother fucking level. You cannot compare that.
Okay, let me hold on. Corey Wolf chimed in on something on the sports chat group. Hold on, let me pull it up. Hold on. Damn, this show taking a long time loading the fuck up.
This is jokes, man. They gotta be jokes.
My shit. Story filed ESPN after a stunning retirement. Guard Darren Collison is considering a February return to the NBA with the Lakers and destinations.
No, thank you. No, thank you. You can keep that shit to yourself.
Bye.
You ain't even relevant, dude.
Bye, Darren.
Sorry.
Bye.
You ain't relevant.
Stay retired, dude. You ain't as relevant as the dude we talking about. So, Jimmy J, again, but who was born February 1st, 1942, passed away today on January 1st, 2020, at the age of 77 due to a brain hemorrhage. So, like I said in the beginning, he leaves a wife and 2 sons. Like Jimmy J said, whereas Jimmy J said that he was a visionary, I said that he was a pioneer for a lot of things. And really he was part of some damn good eras when Jimmy and I were growing up. I grew up in the Smash Mouth era that I grew up and watched and represented, and Jimmy did as well. Then we had to endure the corporate era, and really we just with the LeBron era, I can't endure it. The borrowed quote from my boy Bret Hart, I can't take it. I can't take this LeBron era. So, but again, David did a lot of good things. He also did a lot of bad things. What person wouldn't? So, yeah. But with that being said, let's draw on something. We're gonna draw this close. Appreciate the shout out to my guy Jimmy J Smooth as he joined me in late after he was watching my boys the Crimson Tide kick ass. And as a matter of fact, I did say this is let's draw on something extra, right?
Yes, you did, sir.
Well, now we fixing to go extra. Because Alabama was pissed off, but they didn't play like it. They didn't play like it.
They played like it in the last quarter. It was more like a win.
A fill-out process. And that Mac Jones kid, look, you in the RPO high octane offense, dude. You gonna have to step that shit up. This ain't the old school Earnhardt Perkins. This ain't no West Coast offense. This ain't the old school Bill Walsh West Coast offense or the Coryell. Matter of fact, the RPO ain't nothing but the Coryell. That's all it is, a newer version of the Air Coryell. You're gonna have to put it up, because if Tua can get 320 some yards, over 300 some passing yards in the first half, well, no way in the hell, as bad as Michigan's defense was playing in that game, that's how you finish. You're gonna have to come with it next season, because next season you're gonna play USC, University of Spoiled Children at Houston again. You don't have to come with it, dude. Gonna have to fucking come with it. This ain't no filling out process. You ain't got time for it to be a filling out process. I mean, if you're slowing the legs, you need to start doing something. You need to get your feet light. You need to do something. But I was, and even though I did, with you guys telling me everything what was going, and then I looked at some highlights, I was impressed a little bit. And fuck channels ABC 24 here in Memphis slash South Haven for blacking this game out to show the damn Rose Bowl parade. Nobody don't give a damn about the Rose Bowl parade.
The Hose Bowl.
Yeah. And by the way, that Wisconsin and Oregon they're playing right now, so I'm pretty sure that's Zippo to Zippo. That's anything go on that one. But I was pleased. Bama, they could have did a little bit better. I was pleased. Shits again just prove what they are. The shits. So, and Corey Wolf said it that Jim Harbaugh being paid all that money to have Michigan average. So, enough said.
Well, and as I stated in the sports chat group, they always been fucking average.
Except 1997.
Yeah, except 1997, they've always been fucking average. You could argue 2000 when they beat Alabama in the Orange Bowl, and that's because Alabama gave the game away. Alabama gave that fucking game away. But nevertheless, they've always been a fucking average team. They've always been a Big Ten only dominant team. Because if Ohio State did not win the Big Ten, guess who's going to win? Michigan or Michigan. Michigan's going to win Big Ten. They during the era of Bo Schembechler, he only won 5 postseason games. Now, granted, he did have a couple of seasons where he didn't go to a postseason game, had 9-1 team, 9-0 teams that didn't go to a postseason game. But the only reason why they didn't go is because they had a rule back before 1975 to where the only bowl they could go to was the Rose Bowl. So that's the fault of the Big Ten. But other than that, they were always an average team. They was always limited to beating up on the Big Ten. But when they played other teams in the Pac-12, what is now the Pac-12 or the SEC, they got the shits whooped out of them. So they were always fucking average. They were always a fucking average ass program. Now, Lloyd Carr brought some attention to them. Lloyd Carr, stopped the bleeding against Pac-10, Pac-12 teams. Gary Moeller, before he got caught drinking and driving, stopped. That's why he got fired. He got fired mainly because he was drinking and driving, and it embarrassed the university. So the university hired Lloyd Carr, who was the offensive coordinator, and he stopped the bleeding. Both coaches stopped the bleeding to a certain degree. But if you historically look at it, before 1948, those motherfuckers was always average, an average football team. Ohio State, one way or another, at least Ohio State could beat USC. At least they could beat the UCLAs from time to time, even though they didn't fare much better. But at least they could get an occasional win. But Bo Schembechler, who was 5-12 and 1, I think it is, in bowl games, he was an average coach. He won the Big Ten, but you couldn't do shit with it. So with Harbaugh again, I don't think he should get fired yet. He's doing some.
The closest thing he should do is just fucking resign.
If the fans want him to leave, only if the fans want him to leave. But I think the fans are overzealous right now. You're not going to beat Ohio State for the next 2 years. So your best bet is to keep Harbaugh unless he just goes down all the way to hell. Because I'm pretty sure Michigan is going to be a top 20 recruiting class coming in. And they could easily beat everybody else outside of Ohio State or maybe an occasional Penn State. They should be able to beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is very well coached. They should beat Michigan State, but we never know. They always shit the bed against Michigan State or
shit. Michigan State, they sorry now, so they'll be able to beat Michigan State.
And it's looking like he may get a lawsuit or possibly fired from Michigan State too. D'Antonio, he may end up from what I understand, but nevertheless, if you compare Michigan in terms of its talent to Michigan State is no comparison. The only two teams in the Big 12, I mean Big 10, may as well say the Big 12 because they got 14 fucking teams, but
Yeah.
I digress with that. But you in the Big 10, the only two teams that recruits better than shits
Hey,
again.
keep talking, dude. We gotta make water to run. Keep talking.
Go ahead. The only two teams that recruits better than Michigan is Penn State or Ohio State. And it's not much of a difference between the two teams. You know what I'm saying? You know, Ohio State may get the number 3 recruiting class. Michigan is probably going to be like number 7, at worst case scenario, number 12 or number 10 somewhere. So with that being said, even though Ohio State is average in today's standard, he would probably be doing just fine in Bo Schembechler's average. So again, like I say, Michigan has always been average. They've been always an average team. You know, people, I think with these new age fans, they got spoiled with Gary Moeller and fucking Lloyd Carr being able to win big bowl games and stuff like that. But nevertheless, they've always been average. Historically speaking, they've always been fucking average. And I think what Harbaugh is probably going to need to do is I would put Pep Hamilton at offensive coordinator. I would go ahead and switch offensive coordinators, or at least make him, at worst case scenario, a co-offensive coordinator, which to a certain degree, he's probably the co-offensive coordinator now, but I think they call him a passing game offensive coordinator. So put him at the offensive coordinator position, or at least co-offensive coordinator position, so you won't have a shitty – so your team can at least score enough points, and you need to get you a good defensive coordinator. You probably may have to go to the league and get you a good defensive coordinator in the process. Because I think
about Michigan?
Yeah. So I think they need to put Pep Hamilton at the offensive coordinator position.
No. Wait a minute. Josh Gaddis is the dude he got from Alabama. And I just joined in on a conversation now. Shit Patterson, he played like Shit Patterson as always. Shit Patterson is the reason why, along with Harbaugh, is the reason why Gaddis is not able to do his thing, because Harbaugh keeps putting the fucking handcuffs on shit. So it's not, I wouldn't get rid of Josh Gaddis just yet. I would just try it. If I was that coaching staff, I would just convince Harbaugh, look, dude, you need this. If it was me, I'd tell him, look, I like you as a person, I like you as a coach, but just some of your ways, they're still antiquated. They're still back in the 90s, 80s and 90s. You gotta you gotta take the hand. You gotta eventually take your get the keys to the handcuffs and remove them and keep and throw them away. And from what I read, he always handicaps the offense.
Yeah,
he doesn't he hires coordinators, but he doesn't let them do what they're supposed to do. Like, look what happened up there at the Cleveland Browns with Todd Monken. He called Freddie Kitchens out. He said, "Don't make no sense. You're gonna hire me as offensive coordinator, but you want to call plays. So what I'm doing here?"
Exactly.
So I just think Harbaugh just had to take the handcuffs off a lot of shit. Now they do run a damn good defense, which is a 4-3 defense. But when you just fucking one-dimensional, when you basically are all blitzing and you run cover 2, you run a mix of all the covers and the deep cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. I don't see how it's possible to run cover 5 with a 4-3 over front bait as your base. But you gotta mix it up a little bit. I know Michigan always been a 4-3 team. That's not going. But if I 5 on the rich route, which ain't shit. If I was Don Brown, the defensive coordinator, I would change it up a little bit. I go multiple shit. Run it, mix in the 3-4, run the 4-2-5, Well, study what the 49ers been running. Run the big nickel.
Yeah.
They don't run 3-4 no more. They're a nickel based team. They can line up in anything with nickel personnel.
I agree.
So But it is what
Yeah,
it is on that. Go ahead.
yeah, they have the talent to they have the talent to they have the talent to run a pretty good defensive system in place. So they can't make the excuse where they don't have the talent. They have the talent. It's just Harbaugh got to get out of his fuck shit ways. If he want to keep his job at Michigan, you got to get out of his fuck shit ways. Now, him being at Stanford, that may fly at Stanford because, you know, all you got to do is get Stanford to a couple of Pac-10, Pac-12 championships, and you know they'll be like, okay, you're a good coach. You know, as long as you don't have a losing season or a couple of shitty seasons, they don't care what you do. But Michigan is a whole nother ball game, and I can see the fans next year getting more and more frustrated with Harbaugh. So, like Richard Ransom saying to Memphis, he gotta clean up that fuck shit offense, that fuck shit defense, and those sorry ass shit Patterson. So it is what it is.
Man, you sound like Richard.
Say what now?
Yeah, you know Richard Ransom do say that shit. Been told to clean up. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man.
It is what it is. Man, but other than that, Jimmy, you got anything you like that?
Man, I love this show, man.
But not right now.
Yeah, I love this show, man. And like I say, man, tune in to the Jimmy J Smooth Network, man. And keep on tuning in to the live streams of Craig, man.
Oh, no doubt. This is Craig L. Smith II. Everyone's 20 starts and ends off prosperous and continue more into the next five. And we are out.
Peace.